Good morning, good morning, good morning, y'all. Hope you had a great week. Hope you're enjoying a great weekend. If you watch the Super Bowl, hope you let me know who your team is and who you're rooting for tonight. I'm actually rooting for the Seattle Seahawks. Since I'm a Jets fan, and you can all feel sorry for me for that one, but Sam Darnold was drafted by the Jets. I want to see him succeed. Hopefully, he'll get a title today. But let's get back into the meat and potatoes of today. Okay, we're going to talk about what? We're going to talk about a mileage guide for high school boys and high school girls. Okay. I've talked about this before, but not in this type of detail. So I want to give you a little bit more insight. And if you have questions along the way, you can ask them live time, and I'm more than happy to answer them. Put them right in the comments. And I'll be happy to answer them. And again, if you're a coach or an athlete, welcome here, especially if you're your first time. Okay. Please make sure that you do two things if you haven't done that yet. Please make sure you like and subscribe. If you enjoy the content enough, the like button means a lot. Subscribe to the channel, turning on your notifications means you won't miss anything, and you'll know exactly what we're going to be talking about every Sunday morning when we go live 9 a.m. ahead of time. So you can bring any questions you want, and I'm more than happy to answer them. Okay. And again, this is just a guide. Okay. And the reason why I do this, because I want you to see the gradual progression from freshman to sophomore to junior to senior. I talk to a lot of folks, and sometimes I go from 30 miles a week to 55 to 60, and I'm hearing a lot of injury stories, right? And missing, I missed 8 weeks, I missed 10 weeks, and that's a lot of time to miss. It doesn't have to be that way. So the schedule layout and the mileage layout allows you to kind of build a consistent routine of aerobic development, right? And you can gradually take steps every year in school. Okay. Give yourself time to adapt, make modifications in your training. We'll go on, and I'm going to talk about the difference between cross country and track and maintaining the same weekly mileage. Okay. But it's different because why? Cross country, you're training for the same distance every week the whole season. Track, you're training for, it could be around the mile, 800, 2 mile, and so on and so forth. You're training for different events. But the composition of the workouts is what can change. Okay. And that's the key. And we'll get into that as well. Let's get right into this. Okay. Freshmen, high school girls and freshmen. Again, you modify this as you see fit. Ninth grade is always a 6 days per week for me, whether it's boys or girls. Okay, let's just say 24 miles a week. And I like to think on the conservative side, meaning what it's easier to get here and maintain it as opposed to going too high and then having to take steps back or miss time because of injury. Okay, you can build on these volumes easier instead of having to do the other way around. Okay, so 24 miles a week equals 4 miles a day average in 6 days. Okay, not a lot of volume, not a lot of volume, but we'll elaborate into this in a little bit. Okay, and then you bump it up to 10th grade. And now you from 10th to 12th grade is a day off every other Sunday. Okay, so here it's 30 miles in 6 days and alternating with 35 miles in 7 days. Okay, so you bumped up from 4 miles a day average in ninth grade to 5 miles a day average in 10th grade. Okay, and if you do that 5 miles a day average, that's 7 more miles per week about. Okay, then the 11th grade, you bump up to 36 miles in 6 days, alternating with 42 miles in 7 days, 6 miles a day average. Okay, with the day off every other Sunday. And then as a senior, I'll get to your question in 1 second. And then as a senior, you go to 42 miles in 6 days and 42 9 miles in 7 days. You bump up from 6 miles a day average as a junior to 7 miles a day average as a senior. Okay, this is a moderate build, but it's one that's going to gradually allow you to stay healthy while you do it. Okay. Good morning, Multi Kenny, my man. How are you, my friend? And give me your thoughts on this. Yes, in the progression of these mileage shit. That's high school girls, okay? High school boys, the mileages tend to be a little bit higher, but they don't always have to be. But I'll show you the difference, okay? So we're going 4, 5, 6, and 7 here, right? Per year for high school girls. Well, high school boys, ninth grade, 30 miles a week, 5 miles a day average in 6 days. Okay? Day off every Sunday. Then you bump it up to 10th grade, where the day off is every other Sunday. 36 in 6 days, alternating with 42 in 7 days. So we're bumping up to what? 6 miles a day average now. Okay, and then bumping up to junior year, we go to 42 in 6 days, 49 in 7 days. We're bumping up to 7 miles per day average. Okay, and then 12th grade, as a senior, we go to 48 in 6 days, 56 in 7 days. So 8 miles a day average. So we're going from 5 a day as a freshman to 6 a day as a sophomore, 7 a day as a junior, 8 a day as a senior. Now, again, a lot of folks ask me, well, shouldn't my mileage be very different from cross country to track? Not necessarily. The composition of your workouts is what's going to be different. Like I said, okay, and we're gonna get into that too. But if you think about it this way, in cross country, your main workouts are going to be a cross country type workout, right? Whether it's 5 times a K or 5 times 1200 or 4 times a mile, whatever it is, long repeats and a non-race week, right? If you do a second workout per week, that could be where you alternate things. You can do threshold and tempo, hills, some shorter, faster stuff, and so on and so forth. But the main workout of the week is your cross country type workout, your 5K type workout, because you're training for a 5K every single week or every other week throughout the whole entire season. So you've got to be ready for that. Okay. Where you can modify it is during track season, but you can still maintain this same type of volume. You can move it in different areas. You can add to your warm up and add to your cool down with a shorter type workout and so on and so forth. You can do a 2-week cycle where you do 5K pace, 3K pace, mile pace, 800-meter pace for your full workouts, right? You can alternate this a little bit and then repeat that cycle because it makes it easier for you to what? If you're an 800, 1500-meter runner, you can step up to the 2 mile, right? If you're a mile, 2 mile, you can step down to the 4x8, right? If you're an 800-meter runner, you can step down to the 4x4. This makes it more versatile, makes it easier to step up, makes it easier to step down, okay? And you can make the workouts during track season a little bit more specific to that without compromising your weekly volume. Okay, now, speaking of weekly volume, let's just do a basic breakdown, okay? This is boys and girls. Monday is always an easy short day, okay? So if you're averaging 4 a day, this is maybe 3 miles. If you're averaging 6 a day, this is maybe 5 miles and so on, okay? Tuesday's workout 1. Okay, Wednesday's semi-long run at an easy pace, okay? Thursday is a medium run at a steady pace, which is a little bit short, maybe a mile or two shorter than your semi-long run. Okay. And then Friday is either a workout 2 of the week if you're not racing or an easy day if you are racing. Okay. Saturday is either a cross-country meet or a track meet if you're racing that week. Or if you're not, it's a long run. Okay. And this is where the long could be 20 to 25% of your weekly mileage. Okay. So if you're running 40 miles a week, right, this can be anywhere from 8 to 10 miles. You're running 30 miles a week, this could be 6 to 8 miles. If you're running 50 miles a week, it could be 10 to 12 miles, and so on. Okay. And 10 to 12, you'll see the difference in a little bit. Okay. And then obviously, Sunday's either an off day or a short, easy day. Okay. Depending on what year of school you're in. It's an off day if you're in 9th grade every year. Every week. If it's an off day or an easy day if you're 10th, 11th, and 12th grade. Okay. In a non-race week, race week really doesn't matter. You can't really, the races are the races, right? Now, let's get into a little bit more specifics. And let me know if this makes sense, this schedule. And if you have any questions on how to build this into your training. And again, you modify this as you see fit. You're the coaches and athletes. Okay, but this is something that I've used as a high school and college coach with a lot of success. Type of scheduling. The Tuesday, Friday workout session allows you to have 2 easy days in between or 2 recovery days in between. The long run on Saturday allows you to build strength. Okay, if you're racing that week, the workout's Tuesday, you do a little bit of light speed after a Thursday run instead of a workout, and then you do your race on Saturday. Okay. And you can still add to your warm-up, you can still add to your cool down, and so on and so forth, right, during the track season. Whereas, let's just say you want to do some 400s at mile pace or whatever, right? And let me get this off the screen here. Here we go. You want to do some 400s at mile pace, man, but you want to maintain the volume. You can do 4 miles or 3 miles, and then do 6 times a 400 at mile pace, and then do another 3 or 4 miles. You can kind of do that if you want to keep that volume up. You can just add to your warm up and add to your cool down. If you're normally doing a mile and a half to 2 mile warm up, you can do 2.5 to 3 on both ends. Okay, and that allows you to add 2 to 3 miles to the day without compromising the weekly volume. If you want to keep that type of volume, okay, it's up to you to decide that. Okay, now elaborate into this a little bit further. Okay, like I said, the longer you build up to 20 to 25% of weekly mileage, depending on the week. It can be slightly longer on the week where there's no race and there's a Sunday day off. Okay. So what I mean by this, you can do, let's just say the long run's 10 to 12 miles. You can do it 12 miles or 11 to 12 miles when there's a day off on Sunday. You can do it 10 miles when there's a short, easy day on Sunday, right? So it allows you to kind of lay the volume out any way that you want. But you can increase a little bit of volume to the long run if you have a day off the next day. And you'll still be recovering, doing an easy day on Monday, and then you won't be doing another workout until Tuesday. So you're always going to have 2 recovery days, no matter where you're at, in between the first workout and the race, or the race and the next workout, the long run and the next workout, and so on. There's always going to be 2 days of recovery. And that's the key. Fitting in the recovery into your training and into your racing is a really, really important component of the training. Okay, and I talk to a lot of coaches, and there's a lot of, I have to do 2 workouts a week and I have to race twice a week. How do you do that? How do you do Monday, Wednesday workouts and then a Saturday race every single week? Or how do you race Wednesday and Saturday? And where are you going to fit in training? Where are you going to fit in recovery? Right? And how are you not going to run your best races 6 weeks too early or in the middle of your season? The key, this sets you up to run your best races when it counts the most. Okay. Then we have a comment. We have a question here. Marcus, how are you? Morgan. My apologies. What about Tuesday workout, VO2, Thursday tempo workout, and Saturday race? I know a team does this, 3 state champs, and they dominate everything. If it works for them, it works for them. It depends on what the VO2 max is. I would actually move the Tuesday. I would actually move the tempo to Wednesday and do it right at the day after the Tuesday workout. And then that way they have Thursday and Friday easy days. Right? What state is this, Morgan, if I can ask? And again, that might work for them. It really depends on what the tempo is too. Right? It depends on what that secondary workout is. So, but yeah, like I said, you modify this as you see fit that works for you. Dalit. What is Dalit? Oh, California. Okay. You're talking about Jesuit? Oh, good. I'm glad it makes sense to Bionic. Good. Jesuit High School. Yeah, I know. It's where Michael Stember went. Yeah. Coach Walt. Yeah, I know Stember. Did you just watch that Jesuit video on YouTube? And remember, the volume, you can do that when the volume is not super high either. Okay, it's easier to do when the volume's not super high. And I'm sure they modify it to make it work for them too. So getting back to this too, like I said, the goal is being consistent with the weekly volume, right? Gradually progressing by increasing the volume each year, which is easier to adapt to. This is the easier way to keep you healthy, to keep your athletes healthy. Okay, you don't need to go from 30 miles a week to 55 the next week, right? In 55, 60 weekly, yeah, I mean, that's not super high volume, right? But the freshmen are not going to be running that. I highly doubt that. Their juniors and seniors might. But yeah, I know Jesuit's got a good program there. They do have a good program. Like I said, during cross country, you're training for the same distance all season, right? During track season, you're not. So you can incorporate more variety in workouts. And this is where, when I talk about, let me get this off the screen here. When I talk about, if you're doing 6 to 8 times a 400 for the workout itself, but you want to add a little bit of volume, you can do that mile or mile and a half of tempo in the beginning, get that VO2 max hit, and then do the race specific workout afterward. And now the workout it's what? It's 3.5 to 4 miles if you want to add some volume to the workout. Instead of doing something super hard, you can do a VO2 max like a tempo piece and then your race specific stuff. So that you can mix and match as you see fit, depending on where in the season you're at too. Right? And then I know Jesuit does that too. They make it applicable to their athletes. I know Michael Stember was never a high volume guy. He used to get hurt when he was at high volume at Stanford. So they had to modify his volume. And he's one of the best high school middle distance runners in the state of California's history. So does this stuff make sense for you guys? Does anybody have any questions on this? I want to make sure you understand. And again, like you take things you learn from other coaches, you take things you might learn from here, make it into your own. That's what I've done over the last 2 decades as a coach. I've been able to learn from guys like John McDonald from Arkansas, Marcus O'Sullivan, like some of the top high school coaches around too. Renato Canova, like Joe Vigil, Jack Daniels. I've spent time with all these guys. Okay. And I've been fortunate enough to kind of learn from them and take pieces that I think work or notice that work and make it a part of my training philosophy, my training program, but just modify it, right? And that's why I want to give you as much information as possible and just kind of give you a basic layout that you can make into your own. Here is just a kind of scheduling layout, how to lay out the training so you can hit your mileage goals if you want to do that, or how to schedule out to maximize recovery, right? Like that Tuesday, Thursday volume, like that from Jesuit, they're not going to be high volume workouts. That's not going to be like a 5 mile tempo and then hard session as well. Like it's going to be an abbreviated version of it. But if they're not racing, I'm sure they'll add volume to that week. Right? So when you factor in racing, you have to factor in recovery too. And you have to give yourself enough time to recover from the workouts. And I know Jesuit doesn't race every single week either. At least their top group, they do not race every week. No, especially the top teams in California. It's one of the best states in cross country, the top states. But that's something I've known for 2 decades. They don't race 10 or 12 times during a cross country season. And good, they shouldn't. Right? Want to run their best races. You want to run states and get guys to the nationals. And more training and less racing is a good recipe to accomplish that goal. Right? But again, modifying as you see fit. Some athletes need to race themselves into shape, usually because they're not running enough over the summer, right? So that's where you have to kind of tinker with training and modify stuff for them. Okay, I know they don't race every single week. The team might race every week, but not the same guys every week. That I do know. But the team, I wouldn't be surprised if they race every week. Because again, when you have a lot of athletes on your team, you want to make sure everybody gets an opportunity to race, right? So you'll race, you might race your 1-3-5, and then you might race your 2-4-6 the next week and get it to the point where they're all peaking at the end of the season, right? And again, might be a little bit different for certain teams, but it's good they don't go beyond 56. I mean, I know some programs that do 70-80 in high school, which is pretty high volume. And as college coaches, I mean, I have coached in college too. We tend to look for programs that don't have super high volume, right? Or athletes that don't run super high volume, because then you can gradually build them the way you want to build them during college. Since they're adapting to longer races and they're going to need to adapt to that longer volume, whether it's in training altogether or it's racing and so on. The workouts are going to get longer, they're going to get more intense. And if they're already doing super high volume, the transition to that could be a little bit different than doing low volume, kind of gradually increasing. So, but again, it's applicable to everything's applicable differently to athletes. Right? Anybody have any other questions, folks, about this training? And I'm glad you watched the Jesuit video. Guy's an all-timer. He's been coaching for like 40, 50 years. No. Mm-hmm. Sunday long, Monday easy, Tuesday VO2, Wednesday easy, Thursday 20 minutes of tempo, Friday easy, Saturday race. Mm-hmm. I wonder what the VO2 is and what pace the tempo's at. Is the VO2 max stuff? Repeats at 3K pace, repeats at 5K pace. stuff in mile pace and so on. They tend to have a lot of good middle distance runners there at Jesuit. But I mean, that is if that works for them, then good, good. That's really good. And I'm sure he's modified stuff over the years, over the decades he's been coaching too. Race pacer faster for 5K at least. Okay, so the volume's not overly high. They're not really doing much over distance. That's kind of in line. That type of volume makes it easier to do it on a more consistent basis. It's also nice when you're in California. The weather's good all year. In the East Coast, where the weather gets colder and it's more unsavory, it's a little bit different. Or in the Midwest, the weather gets colder. It's easy to do this stuff if the weather's good and if you have good footing and good training environment, which they do to train on, which is good. It's like Stanford. The weather's always good. Well, they can do some stuff. And I know a lot of them do high volume too at Stanford. Any other questions, gang? This is good information, Morgan. How would you adjust racing multiple times a week with a small team of 20, 25 runners? I wouldn't race everybody multiple times a week. I would race some people midweek, some weekend, and so on and so forth. That's kind of how I would adjust it. And then the people I would race midweek, I would do their secondary workout Friday and Saturday. And people that race Saturday, I would do their primary workout Tuesday or Wednesday. It's an easier way to keep a smaller team, 20, 25 runners. That's a bigger team where I'm from. That'd be a good number to have. But it's also easier way to keep that many athletes healthy, right? And it makes it easier as a coach to figure out, okay, who's progressing best here, who's progressing best there, and how do I merge them? Because they're all going to be running, the championship race are always on the weekend, right, for the most part. How do I get my midweek racers transition to weekend racing? Right? And how do I keep them healthy while I do it? And I don't know if that makes sense to you, if that's an answer that you want to hear. That's how I would adjust it. Like over here on the East Coast, I mean, I would race essentially freshmen midweek, and then the varsity in the weekends. But I generally don't race athletes twice per week, especially not consistently. That makes it harder for them to recover. Makes it harder for them to run the best races at the end of the season. Does that make sense, Multi? Because also, it makes it easier for you to fit in their training, right? Especially if you're racing 5K twice per week, it makes it hard to fit in workouts and recover from everything too. So, but again, it's up to you. You're the coach. You know your athletes better than I do. You make it work for you and your team, right? Every area is different. You got to work with your environment, work with what you have healthy. You got to keep your athletes healthy. Some might be transitioning from soccer. Some might be doing something else. Some might have not run over the summer as much as they need to, and so they'll be racing a little bit more frequently, right? Because they're going to have to race themselves into shape to a degree. So I think looking back and seeing, okay, what did they do over the summer? Do they need to race that much, right? Or does it make more sense to give them some good workouts and so on? But there are some kids that will race a little bit more. But like multiple times a week for 10 to 12 weeks, that's 20, 25 races. That's a lot of racing. A lot of racing. But that's a good question. That is a good question. hmm Michael Stember is now a famous sushi chef, formerly of Jesuit and Stanford University. He's a famous sushi chef now. Um, he invested in something in a company or whatever, and it hit big, and it made a lot of money. And he sold it, and he started to pursue his passion, which is culinary. He became a chef, which is pretty darn cool. Pretty darn cool. But that is a good program over there. Jesuits got a good program. Walt Hank? I don't remember his name. Hank? Is it Walt Hank? Something like that. Well, any last questions before I wrap it up and let you go? I appreciate you coming on. Walter Kenny, always good to see you. Morgan, good good information. Walt Lange, that's his name. Thank you. Lange. Yes, that's right. He is a legend. He coached Stember like 30 years ago. Yeah. What did I make of the indoors recently? Some fast times. Um, some pretty fast times. NCAA records and the women's 3K NCAA record and the men's 800. Um, I'm looking forward to seeing some fast high school running too. That generally happens at nationals and things like that. And, we had some fast races, but there's been some fast pro races. World record in the 2K, world record in the 800 meters. I think those are the world records this year so far. But I like watching indoors. I really do. Oh. What did you make of it? I always enjoy watching track races. I really do. I also like watching cross country. I watched World Cross Country Champs. That was pretty cool. And I like to see the athletes that run cross country, especially the middle distance runners who run well in cross and still run well on a track, like Gary Martin, University of Virginia, like a 3:48 miler. And it was cool to see Nico Young run 3:48 for the mile too at the Melrose Games. Yeah. That's fine. I enjoy watching track and cross country. I usually go to the Melrose Games every year. I didn't go this year. The seats are way too expensive. No, they're crazy. I go to Penn Relays every year though. I'm already set to go to Penn. I usually sit near the finish line too. So I'm looking forward to that. Very much so. It would be cool if Jesuit brought one of their athletes to Penn, ran the boys mile, or boys 3K or something like that. That'd be pretty cool. Or the DMR or the 4x8. If they have, enough guys to run well in those relays. That would be really pretty cool to see. Yes, indeed. Multi Kenny, you go to Penn? And Thea, where are you located? And what did you make of indoors too? What do you enjoy watching the most? The kid, the Cooper Looking House. What do you run? 114 at them for the 600. Oh, woo-hoo. He is lightning fast. This kid. 145 opened up his season indoors. And he's only a high school junior. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Well, looks like we're done with questions. So I want to thank you all for joining me. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And have a great weekend. May your team win the Super Bowl tonight. Enjoy it. Have a great week. I'll be back next Sunday again. Too far of a travel. You're in Illinois. Cheaper doing junior. Okay. When yeah, I hear you, Multi-Kenny. Cooper's only in juniors. No, I get it, man. I get it. Can you get into something like Notre Dame or the Mayo at Michigan or something that's more close to you? They allow some high school runners to get in those races if they're fast enough. Be pretty cool. Those races I know are fast. And now on the West Coast too, you got the Washington, the Husky invite too, and a lot of California teams go there. I don't know many high school athletes go there unless they're really, really fast. That race is lightning fast, just like on the East Coast, Boston University, lightning fast. Yeah. But that's it, gang. Appreciate you as always. Hopefully you found this helpful. Hit the thumbs up if you did. Share with the athletes that you know that might enjoy this stuff. Coaches, teammates. And again, this is my email. I'll put this in the comments right now for you in case anybody has questions of training. Wants any personalized guidance. This is my email. I only give it on here. blackbeltrunningcoach@gmail.com. So those are my two hats that I wear. Running coach and black belt. I teach martial arts. I have black belts in several arts. And that's why the email is as such. So you're welcome, Morgan. Thank you for the insight as well. It's always good to learn from other athletes and coaches too. So I appreciate it. So keep bringing it. Keep bringing information too, man. It's always I learn from it, and that's what Walt Lang is doing there. It might work for some athletes here too. Kind of balancing the training out. So that's why thank you for sharing that format. I appreciate it. But peace and love, gang. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll see y'all next Sunday.